Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. The last UFC card of 2022 just ended. It's absolute insanity that the year is coming to an end, but it was UFC Vegas 66, Jared Cannonier versus Sean Strickland, and this is going to be my UFC Vegas 66 post-fight. I'm mainly going to discuss the main event and co-main event, but I'll briefly touch on every single fight on this card. Starting off with the main event, you had Jared Cannonier winning via split decision. And I know there's going to be some talk about this decision, and there's going to be some people saying that Sean Strickland definitely won. This was one of those fights that could have went either way. You know, there's some fights that there's a bad decision, and some people say, oh, well, this person should have won, or it could have went either way, and really it couldn't have. It was just a terrible decision. This fight genuinely could have went either way. It was super tough to score watching it live. I'll go over how I scored this fight round by round before actually digging deeper into the fight. Round one, very close. Like, I'm going to say that about every single round in this fight. I gave it to Cannonier, but just barely. I thought he landed the more powerful shots. Had some good leg kicks, had some good body kicks. Strickland, hitting a lot of forearms in this round. He caught a body kick at one point and took Cannonier down, then clinched up with him for like 30 seconds, landed a couple shots in the clinch. But I thought Cannonier just barely edged it out, but honestly could have went either way. Second round, Strickland started to land a little bit more volume. Some of those jabs started slipping through the guard of Cannonier. Again, very close round. Cannonier was landing some good leg kicks. I thought it went to Strickland, but again, 50-50 round. Round three, Jared Cannonier started picking up the aggression. Landed some good hard shots on Sean Strickland. And in this round, Strickland landed a few jabs, was kind of busting him up with jabs a little bit. But I just thought Cannonier landed the harder shots. And, he took that round just based off landing the heavier shots. But there was a lot, and then we're going to talk about the fight as a whole in a minute. There was a lot of hitting forearms, and there was a lot of hitting air in this fight. So it was super close rounds to judge. Fourth round, another razor close round. I think Strickland started to pick it up a little bit more with aggression, landing some teep kicks to the body, pumping the jab over and over and over again. Some of them were getting through the guard. Other ones were bouncing off the arms of Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier not super aggressive in this round, and I gave round four to Sean Strickland. So essentially at this point, I have a 2-2 going into the fifth round. And round five, I had Jared Cannonier taking round five. Was very aggressive. I thought he landed the better shots. There was a couple big power shots that he landed. Strickland was kind of rolling with a little bit, and they weren't landing like, concussive blows like they were going to knock out Sean Strickland, but they were good shots. He landed a couple body kicks, I believe, in the fifth round as well. A super close round, but I gave it to Jared Cannonier. Honestly, if I had to pick one round to say definitely went one way or another, I think round five would be the round that I say, even though it was super close, I would definitely give that round to Jared Cannonier. He was just more aggressive, throwing combinations. Some of them landed, some of them didn't. Threw some body kicks, and just threw heavy hooks and heavy power punches and was backing up Sean Strickland that entire round. So I had it 3-2 for Jared Cannonier. I don't blame you if you scored it for Sean Strickland. These were very close rounds and very hard to judge. As far as my takeaways from the entire fight, I feel like my analysis going into this fight was pretty accurate. I'm not saying I'm some type of genius. I think a lot of people could see this coming. It was the jab of Sean Strickland versus the leg kick of Jared Cannonier. And both techniques were working very well for each guy. One thing I do want to mention that surprised me, and I was mentioning this on my live stream. If you join me for my live stream for UFC Vegas 66, I appreciate you. But I mentioned this in there. Strickland ate a lot of leg kicks, but he was very aware. And he was starting to check, and he was starting to lift up that leg. And there was a technique that he was using, and I feel like it was to deal with the leg kicks, and that was just to throw constant teep kicks with that leg, that lead leg. He was just lifting it up, throwing teep kicks. I don't only think that was just to land body shots. I think it was also a measure just to keep that lead leg off the ground and kind of a little bit unpredictable so Cannonier just couldn't smash it. And then I think in the third or fourth round, I think it was late third round, Sean Strickland checked a kick, and you could hear it when it happened because Cannonier was really slamming this one home. Strickland lifted up his leg, turned the shin in. Cannonier didn't throw any more leg kicks after that one, if my memory is correct. So, it was a little bit too late because the damage had already been done. He already started to slow down a little bit. But Cannonier was chopping the leg. Strickland's jab was working. But what it came down to in this fight, and this is a problem of Sean Strickland throughout the course of his career, there's a lack of output, and there's a lack of aggression. He just kind of circles around. He's hard to hit. He's got a tricky striking style, and he just hopes to win with a jab. And he doesn't mix in a lot of techniques. You know, he throws the teep kick to the body, but outside of that, he's just pumping the jab. You know, he doesn't have nuclear power, and you can't win a lot of fights like that. You know, obviously he's been able to beat guys like Uriah Hall and Jack Hermanson, but against guys like Jared Cannonier or, you know, Israel Adesanya or Alex Pereira, when you're just kind of backing up and circling away and just plodding forward and just pumping the jab, you lack options. You lack variety. You're pretty predictable. And you don't mix in the grappling. I mean, he had that one grappling exchange in the first round off catching the body kick. It's just going to be hard to win fights that way against the elite of the elite at middleweight. Now, don't get me wrong. Strickland's a very good fighter. He's very defensively responsible. He's hard to hit. He's got a funky style. He's got a jab that, you know, he doesn't have like this crazy power, but people respect that jab. And he got some respect from Jared Cannonier in this fight from pumping that jab. He snapped his head back a couple times. So that jab is very effective, but when you're not mixing that in with other techniques and you're just relying on that jab to win you fights, it's not going to win you a lot of fights. For Jared Cannonier is who we thought he was. He's just going to come out there. He's going to chop your legs. He's going to look to knock you out with big power shots. And he couldn't find a kill shot tonight. Never really got close. You know, I think he landed like one really good shot where I thought for a second, okay, he might have rocked Sean Strickland, but he didn't really. Strickland seemed like he ate it. I think it was in like the fourth round or third round. I can't remember exactly. But just comes out winging punches, hitting a lot of air. Strickland's hitting a lot of the forearms. And honestly, going into the scorecards, I said on stream, I scored it for Cannonier, but I think the judges are going to give it to Sean Strickland because Strickland was having a decent output compared to, I mean, it was weird because Cannonier was throwing these looping punches and he was throwing like 2-punch combinations where Strickland was just pumping that jab over and over again, then following it with like a straight. And a lot of it was hitting the forearms, but I thought, you know, just the visualization of it, I thought maybe the judges would give it to Sean Strickland just based on that. But again, it was a super close fight. Where does Jared Cannonier go from here? He's 38 years old. I don't know. He's talking about, I would love a title shot. I don't want to see him in a title shot. No, I don't want to see him fight Alex Pereira. I don't want to see him fight Israel Adesanya again. Get us some fresh blood. Get us Roman Dolidze up there, you know? I'd rather see that. Or if Pereira stays the champ and when he rematches Adesanya, give us Robert Whittaker versus Pereira. Or, you know, any of those fights. I don't want to see Cannonier fight for a title. As far as Strickland, I don't know where he goes from here. He can fight Dracus Duplessis. I'm sure there's plenty of other fights. He could fight the loser of Kelvin Gastelum versus Nasruddin Imagulov, which happens in, you know, about 3 weeks. But outside of that, I don't really know. The division is kind of booked up right now. You could do Strickland versus Brunson. There's a lot of potential matchups that could happen once some fights play out. But we'll have to see how the division plays out in the next, you know, month or two, because there is a lot of middleweight fights booked up. Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa is supposed to happen at UFC 284. But right now, I don't come out of this fight particularly excited about either guy. I don't come out of this fight with a new profound understanding of either guy's skill sets. Sean Strickland and Jared Cannonier are who we thought they were. I haven't learned anything new tonight. I would have liked to have seen the sense of urgency from Sean Strickland, you know, just put up a little bit. I mean, I know it's easier said than done when you're fighting an absolute killer like Jared Cannonier, but you can't just back up and eat leg kicks and eat body kicks and eat jabs to the body. Jared Cannonier used a lot of jabs to the body and not mix in the grappling at all and just pump the jab and expect to win a fight. But again, it was close. One judge did have it 49-46 for Strickland. I don't think it should have been 49-46. I think it should have been 48-47 regardless. I had it 3-2, you know, but I guess each round was very close. So who knows what rounds they had what. I haven't looked at the exact scorecards yet. But overall, an okay main event. I think the co-main event was much more exciting. We'll talk about the co-main event now. Arman Tsarukyan versus Damir Imagulov. The co-main event, my favorite fight on the card. I predicted this fight to a T. Arman Tsarukyan just a little bit better everywhere. Damir is very, very good. But it was going to be Damir's jab versus Arman's kicks. And then also I thought Arman was the superior grappler. And that's pretty much exactly how this fight went down. Arman landed some good body kicks, some good leg kicks. Damir landed some good jabs. But primarily this fight was about Arman Tsarukyan's grappling. He was able to get to Damir down multiple times. Damir's not easy to get down, nor is he easy to keep down. And Tsarukyan early landed some good body kicks, landed some good leg kicks, shot in on some takedowns. Damir continued to work his way back to his feet. I don't think in the first round Arman really solidified any top position. Damir kept scrambling, kept fighting till the very end. But each round, I mean, Arman was just getting more and more dominant with the grappling. The second round controlled him, got some takedowns, controlled him a little bit more on the ground. Damir, every time, as soon as he got taken down, even if it was the most perfectly timed shot, Damir would get to his knees, get to his hands, start working back to his feet, and then it would reset. And then in the third round, Arman started getting the back, started looking for rear nakeds. I think he might even had the back at the end of the second round at one point in time. But Arman wins this fight 30-27. I thought it was a clear 30-27. The grappling of Arman Tsarukyan was just too much for Damir Imagulov in this fight. But I don't think Damir's stock drops at all, or maybe just slightly, because still Arman Tsarukyan is one of the best grapplers in the lightweight division, in the UFC in general. And Damir wasn't necessarily getting absolutely mauled, taken down, and controlled by him, like we've seen in an earlier fight, which we'll talk about. It was a prelim that we'll talk about later in this video. But Damir's still very good. I don't know who's going to want to fight him, considering Damir might fall out of the rankings. So he's going to be one of the best fighters not in the rankings. But maybe he sticks around at number 15, but not a lot of guys are going to want to fight him. His striking's good. His grappling's good. His takedown defense is good. At one point, he actually, I think it was in the first round, he reversed Arman and ended up in full mount, but Arman was able to scramble, get back to his feet, and then going right back to the body locks and takedowns. He was mixing in body locks, single legs, double legs, clinch work. Arman is just such a good grappler, such great timing. And to go out there and do it to a guy the level of Damir, I know a lot of people don't know who Damir Imagulov is. He's a very good fighter. I said it in my prediction video. Arman Tsarukyan and Damir Imagulov aren't the biggest names, but you could throw them in a lightweight title fight tomorrow and they would have a legitimate chance to pull it off. I'm not saying I'd pick them, but that's how good they are. Even though they're not the biggest names within the UFC lightweight division, and the lightweight division is so stacked, but a quality win from Tsarukyan, and I don't know what's next for him. I thought he got, not robbed, but I thought he won the Mateusz Gamrot fight, and then he should have fought Beneil Dariush, and now Beneil Dariush is kind of waiting in the wings to see what happens in Volkanovski versus Islam. But I'd like to see Arman maybe versus Beneil. If Beneil doesn't want to take that fight, he said he's willing to fight anyone, so why not book that? And that's a hell of a fight. But if he's not willing to take that, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, and Dustin Poirier need to fight these up-and-coming killers. So book Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev. Book Chandler versus Arman Tsarukyan. Book Dustin Poirier versus Arman Tsarukyan. But we'll see how it all plays out. Chandler might be fighting Conor. I don't know who Dustin's going to fight. But Tsarukyan deserves a top 5 opponent in his next fight. And, he took a little bit of a step back after the loss to Mateusz Gamrot that a lot of people thought he won. And he came out, took a very tough test in Damir Imagulov, proved that he belongs at the top of the division and is the future of the division. Only 26 years old, I believe. That is insane for the level of skill set. The kicks looked on point. We didn't see a lot of the hands. The timing on the takedowns and the chain grappling and the scrambling ability of Arman Tsarukyan. I mean, I'm itching to see that Islam Makhachev rematch. I'm itching to see that. Tsarukyan is an amazing grappler. And he proved tonight, again, against one of the best guys in Damir Imagulov. Again, even though he's underrated and not a lot of people know him, he proved that he can go out there and dominate a guy like Damir. And 30-27 him. Didn't see a whole lot of striking, but the timing was good. The grappling was good. The scrambles were good. The jiu-jitsu was good. He worked to finish the fight. He looked to grab the back of Damir, looked for the rear naked choke, and didn't ever really get close to a finish. But a solid performance for Arman Tsarukyan. Comment down below and let me know who you think Arman should fight in his next fight. Moving down the card, Amir Albazi versus Alessandro Costa. This wasn't a super eventful fight. I thought Costa won the first round, defended the takedowns, landed some good kicks. I thought Amir Albazi won the second round. Third round was close. I thought Amir Albazi was winning the third round. Ends up landing an uppercut, TKOing him on the ground, or KOing him on the ground, finishing him off with ground and pound. Amir Albazi, I was very high on him going into this fight, but Alessandro Costa was making his UFC debut, and I get it's not Albazi's fault that Royval pulled out and Alex Perez pulled out, But people are saying Amir Albazi, the dark horse of the division, and this and that. He's going to be a serious threat at flyweight, and he's already ranked in the top 10. I believe he's ranked number 8 at this current time. I mean, it was 1-1. I mean, I had Albazi taking the second. I think he mixed in the grappling in the second a little bit, but had some success with the striking. The first round, I had it for Costa. So 1-1 going into the third. Fair enough, he gets the finish with the uppercut and ground and pound shots. But, I mean, you're fighting a guy that's making his UFC debut, and you had a competitive close fight with him. I know you ended up getting the finish in the third round, but still, let's pump the brakes a little bit on, he's the dark horse of the division. And, I'd like to see him fight that Brandon Royval fight. I'd like to see him fight that Alex Perez fight. At this point, I would not favor him in it, but I would like to see how he would do against that level of flyweight. Moving down the card, Alex Caceres versus Julian Erosa. Alex Caceres, first round KO. Didn't really get to see a whole lot in this fight. Erosa was landing some good kicks. It's back and forth a little bit. Alex Caceres has that funky style. Eventually throws a punch and then follows behind it with like an off-timing head kick. Lands, hurts Julian Erosa badly, falls down, not really with it. Alex Caceres follows him to the ground, lands some brutal ground and pound shots. Julian Erosa was completely done. Alex Caceres has been around forever. And, I don't know that we learned a whole lot new from him tonight, but he proved that he still belongs with some of the better guys within the division. Julian Erosa, I believe, is on a 3-fight winning streak. Caceres could get back on the winning track after losing to Sadiq Youssef in the fight before this. But Caceres is always going to be one of those guys that's just hanging around the division. He's not the elite of the elite, but he's kind of like a gatekeeper for the top 15 and a decent fighter. And this was a massive win for him to go out there and get a KO. I don't remember when is the last time he got a finish. I mean, I don't remember in the UFC. Well, I guess against Soywoy Choi, he won via rear naked choke. I don't remember the last time he got a KO. Let me take a look real quick. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long while since Alex Caceres got a KO. So a good performance. Julian Erosa is a good fighter. He went out there, didn't last very long, but to find that off-timing head kick and to brutally finish Julian Erosa, who's been in some wars, I think is a solid win for Alex Caceres, and we'll see where that puts him in the featherweight division. Moving down the card, Drew Dober versus Bobby Green. What a fight this was. This was a crazy fight. Drew Dober, hell of a chin. It ends up being a second-round KO for Drew Dober. Bobby Green was lighting him up in the first round, hands down low, backing up, just countering Drew Dober as he came in, landing nasty shots. I thought he might rock him, maybe put him away. He was landing crazy shots. Drew Dober just pressing forward, throwing combinations. Drew Dober had some moments in the first round, but Bobby Green was lighting him up on the feet. Second round, more of the same. Drew Dober rushing forward, Bobby Green countering him well, but Drew Dober just runs forward basically, backs Bobby Green up against the fence. Bobby Green just throwing slick combinations, sliding out of the way. Drew Dober throws like a 3-bunch combination, lands a nasty hook, I think it was a left hook, and just puts Bobby Green's lights out. What a crazy fight. What a win for Drew Dober in a fight that he was losing. What a comeback. And, Drew Dober said in the lead up to this fight, the UFC would never let me fight Paddy Pimblett. And he's absolutely right. He would wreck Paddy Pimblett badly. I think Bobby Green would wreck Paddy Pimblett badly. But what a chin on this guy. To take the amount of damage, he was busted up. To take the amount of damage he took against Bobby Green and to come out on top in that second round, lost the entire fight up until the finish. Was eating nasty shots from Bobby Green. And Bobby Green looked like he was in the zone too. I mean, he was flowing nicely. The hands were just, everything he threw was landing at a high accuracy. And I thought basically Bobby Green's just going to bust him up to a decision, maybe even get a finish. But Drew Dober, relentless with his pressure, relentless with his determination, unbelievable chin, goes out there and finds that second round KO. I don't know who we'll see him fight next, but he called out Jalen Turner, which I respect. Nobody wants to fight Jalen Turner. Meanwhile, you had guys, in the last year or two, you had Gregory Gillespie calling out the dead corpse of Tony Ferguson for 6 months and then sitting out for like a year and a half after that. So shout out to Drew Dober. He wants tough fights. So great win for him against Bobby Green, and I can't wait to see what's next for Drew Dober. And that chin is unbelievable. Moving down the card, the fight that opened up the main card, Mikel Oshechek versus Cody Brundage. What a brutal finish for Michael Oshechek. Cody Brundage looked for a takedown, got him down, ends up getting reversed. And then from the guard, Oshechek has the left arm around the back of the neck of Cody Brundage, starts dropping elbows, starts dropping heavy punches, and eventually brutally finishes him in the first round. Nasty power from Machete. Cody Brundage, I think, came in on short notice, so doesn't drop a lot of stock there, but he looked for the takedown, ended up getting reversed, and ends up getting brutally finished. And I think he got finished from guard, if I'm remembering correctly. That seems like forever ago I watched that fight. But just not defending himself, not blocking when you're in guard, had closed guard. At one point, just got wrecked with right hands, gotten some nasty elbows, and just got smashed and finished by Oshechek. He's calling out Chris Curtis after this. I think that'd be a fun fight, but I want to see Chris Curtis versus Dracus du Plessis. I think that makes a lot of sense. That was booked earlier this year and it ended up not happening. But solid performance. I mean, at least he gets a win over Cody Brundage. His last fight was against Sam Alvey, which who really cares about that? That's not really a quality win over a quality fighter when Sam Alvey's basically losing to everyone on the roster and is no longer with the UFC, from my understanding. But he goes out there and gets a brutal first-round finish. Moving down the card to the prelims, Corey McKenna versus Cheyenne Velismus. Garbage fight. I halfway watched it. I was setting up my Fight Companion stream when it was going on. Corey McKenna gets the unanimous decision win. 2 garbage cans. It is what it is. Not really going to talk too much about it. Moving down the card, because this card was a little bit ordered weirdly. That's why there was some prelims I wanted to talk about. Matt Semmelsberger versus Jake Matthews. I thought Jake Matthews was going to win this fight. I thought he was basically a lock for this card. Gets dropped every single round. First round, almost gets finished brutally, somehow survives, makes it to the second round, wins like the first 3.5 minutes of the second round, gets dropped again, almost gets finished again. Matt Semmelsberger takes the second round. Third round, same thing pretty much. Jake Matthews gets dropped in like the first 10 seconds of the third round. Matt Semmelsberger, looks for the finish, but Jake Matthews survives. Has a semi-decent competitive round in the third round. But shout out to Matt Semmelsberger. I mean, he's a very durable guy. He's a very tough guy. He took some big shots in this fight as well. And, I don't really know where to rank this win because I was very high on Jake Matthews coming in this fight. But I'm wondering if I fell into a trap. I mean, Jake Matthews looked unbelievable against Andre Fialho back at UFC 275. And I think I fell into a bit of a trap because this is the same Jake Matthews that's taken Diego Sanchez to a decision. So I don't know how much to take from it, but Matt Semmelsberger's power looked good. His striking looked good. He mixed in the grappling, looked for the finish multiple times. Didn't end up getting it, but it still showed killer instinct. So I'm really curious where Matt Semmelsberger can fit into that welterweight division. I think this is a quality win. I think it gets him a little bit closer to maybe that top 15, but not quite there yet. But if Matt Semmelsberger can continue to win, if he can get a little bit of a step up in competition after this one, win another fight, it wouldn't surprise me if you see him like hanging around really close to that top 15 in the near future. The striking looked on point tonight. The power, the decision-making, the fight IQ. He didn't gas himself out looking for a finish and went out there and beat a guy in Jake Matthews who looked like Jake Matthews 2.0 after the Andre Fialho fight. So quality wins for Matt Semmelsberger. Moving down the card, Said Nurmagomedov versus Sadyukab Kakhramonov. Said Nurmagomedov gets a second-round guillotine in a fight that he pretty much lost every second. Sadyukab came out super aggressive, throwing big punches right away, clinching up, out-grappling Nurmagomedov, taking him down, beating him up as Nurmagomedov's trying to work his way back to his feet. Just ultra-aggressive, looking for the finish, smashing him. There was a couple times in the first round, I think there was once or twice in the first round, and then there was like once maybe in the second round before he ultimately got caught, that Said Nurmagomedov was looking for that guillotine choke. And Kakhramonov was able to avoid it. But eventually in that second round, like midway through the second round, Nurmagomedov locks up that guillotine choke, and you could see how tight it was. And I felt bad for Sadyukab Kakhramonov because he was fighting such a great fight with high intensity. Cardio looked good. I mean, we're halfway through the second. Super high pace, super high volume, constant grappling, suffocating Nurmagomedov, and ultimately gets caught in the choke, gets tapped out. I think both of these guys, again, this is one of those fights, and I've compared this multiple times. RDA versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, 2014. 2 excellent lightweights that a lot of people considered to be future champs, which ultimately did end up becoming future champs, fighting on the prelims. I think Nurmagomedov and Kakhramonov are, I'm not going to say they're future champs, but they're definitely future top 15. I think Said might already be in the top 15. they're definitely future top 10, top 15 guys within the bantamweight division, which is really saying a lot. So this was a great fight. I think Kakramanov showed great aggression. I think he showed great grappling. I think he showed really good striking. I think he showed a really good sense of urgency. I think he showed good power. I think he showed good stamina. But Said Nurmagomedov showed great ability to weather the storm, showed great resourcefulness, showed that his submissions are very, very good, and pulls out a victory that I think, a lot of people, as they're watching this fight, they're like, oh, Nurmagomedov's about to get dominated for 3 rounds. So survived some of those huge shots where Nurmagomedov was working his way back to his feet and Kakramanov was just teeing off. The takedown defense of Nurmagomedov obviously needs some work, which is weird saying with that last name. And I know he's not related to Khabib supposedly, but nonetheless, still a crazy performance to pull off that victory. Can't wait to see where both of these guys go in the future. Nurmagomedov versus any top 15 guy is going to be an interesting fight. I'm not sure who's quite available right now. Wouldn't mind seeing him versus like a Ricky Simone, but Said Nurmagomedov's primarily a striker. Definitely needs to improve his grappling as far as his takedown defense, his wrestling. Submission skills are elite of the elite, in my opinion. And to pull this off after kind of getting beat up for a round and a half is pretty impressive. So I think both guys' stock goes up in this fight, and I can't wait to see where both of their futures are within the UFC Bantamweight division. Moving down the card, Rafa Garcia versus Machete, I think is how you pronounce his name. Rafael Garcia, if I remember correctly, I think I scored every round for him. Just throwing brutal shots, mixing in the grappling. He didn't have a lot of success with the grappling early, and Machete was landing some step-in knees. Machete was much taller than him. Machete came in, missed weight. But Garcia just landed big shots. There was an elbow, I think, in the second round where Machete cut an artery in the side of the head of Rafa Garcia, and it was just squirting blood. And the commentary team, I don't know where they're getting this narrative from. And a lot of fans are saying this shit too, and it's really starting to bother me. Like, oh, well, damage is only cuts, basically. Dominic Cruz was saying Rafa Garcia was pretty much dominating every round. Okay, the first round was competitive, don't get me wrong. Second round was mostly Garcia, but Machete did have that elbow that opened up that cut, and he landed some shots. Third round was basically all Rafa Garcia mixing in the grappling, landing power shots. But they were acting like, oh, now Rafa Garcia has to overcome that cut because the judges are going to score the fight on one cut. The judging criteria on damage does not necessarily mean just cuts or blood, okay? There can be damage that isn't necessarily as highly visible as blood squirting out the side of the head, okay? You have body shots, reddening of the ribs, you have the gas tank being sapped from body shots, even if there's no actual visual damage. There's lack of mobility from leg kicks. There is damage that's not necessarily jumping out to you that you can see with your own eyes based on the techniques that their opponent's using. And this is a terrible narrative, and I think this is coming from the Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley fight. People were giving him that third round just because he landed one knee and got a cut. I know there was more that went on in that fight, but the commentary team was awful tonight. They were acting like somehow Rafa Garcia is going to lose a fight that he's winning 30-27 because of a simple cut and a lot of blood. So Rafa Garcia gets it done. Solid performance. His back was huge. He was super short in comparison to Machete. And he goes out there and basically brutalizes him for 3 rounds. Speaking of brutalization, moving down the card, Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Bryan Battle. Rinat just went out there, took Bryan Battle down, and beat the living shit out of him. Bryan Battle came in on short notice. He looked awful in this fight. Rinat just absolutely dominated him with the grappling. I mean, you could have gave this a 30-24, which essentially would have been 3 10-8 rounds. I think 2 judges gave it 30-26 or 30-25, I think. 2 judges, 30-25. 1 judge, 30-27. I don't know how, and all those rounds are 10-9s. No way. Absolute domination. Took a lot of damage on the ground. Survived. Rinat Fakhretdinov has proved that, he deserves a little bit of a step up at welterweight. And he proved that he might be a future contender. If he's doing this to a guy like Bryan Battle, not that I'm saying Bryan Battle is that good, because I think he looked like a trash can tonight, but Fakhretdinov made him look that bad. And if he dominated him in that fashion, even though I don't think Battle is the elite of the elite, I'm curious to see how he can do when he gets a step up in competition. So I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, when you're dominating a guy for potentially 3 10-8 rounds, I mean, Bryan Battle in the first round had a couple submission attempts, but he was just getting smashed. And anytime he worked his way back to his feet, he was getting taken back down. And on the feet, Fakhretdinov was landing some shots and then mixing in the takedowns. Heavy grappler. We're looking forward to his future within the welterweight division. And a dominant performance over Bryan Battle. Bryan Battle's going to have to rebuild a little bit now. Moving down the card, Manel Kape versus David Dvorak. Manel Kape wins a unanimous decision. I thought he won every round, but, you know, the first round, I think it was the first round. I mean, this was the second fight of the night. The first round, Manel Kape was landing some good shots. I think he almost, no, I'm mixing it up. Second round where he almost got the finish with the strikes. First round, Dvorak was just circling away. Eventually gets Manel Kape down, controlling him on the ground. At the end of the round, Manel Kape gets a Kimura, reverses him, and then just wrenches the Kimura as hard as he can. I thought he was going to rip his arm off. I thought he was going to tap. David Dvorak refuses to tap. It goes to the end of the first round. Now, I thought because of the lack of damage that David Dvorak did, because he just circled around for the whole entire first round, and then he got the takedown and didn't do much on the ground once he got him down. I thought because of the submission attempt, Manel Kape won the first round. Second round, Manel Kape almost finished him a couple times. I believe this is when he was like swarming him. Landed some good shots to the body. David Dvorak survives again. Third round, Manel Kape, I thought he lost the third round. He was showboating the whole round, didn't do anything. David Dvorak landed a couple shots, started to get more aggressive. And I thought it was a bad look. Manel Kape's acting like, you know, he's the superstar in the flyweight division and the biggest star of the division. He was showboating the whole third round and lost the third round, in my opinion. David Dvorak landed the better shots, and Manel Kape literally did nothing in the third round, outside of like 3 leg kicks. So I had it Manel Kape 29-28. Would have lost the first round had it not been for that submission attempt, you know, because if there was nothing to score on other than the effective grappling, David Dvorak would have gotten it. I think David Dvorak, I understand why he was worried about the explosiveness of Manel Kape, but didn't really want to fight in the first round. Was just running for his life. And, you know, I understand there's a strategic aspect to that, you know, circling around the cage, but he just didn't want to fight in the first round. Then he eventually gets the takedown. Then he gets reversed and almost gets his arm ripped off. Shout out to him. He showed some serious toughness. Manel Kape, to me, he fights any elite grappler, probably going to take him down, beat him up on the ground. I don't think his striking is particularly amazing. I think he has power, explosiveness for the flyweight division. But I think guys like Moreno or Figgy, or even maybe like a guy like Brandon Royval or Kai Kara-France, I think they beat Manel Kape. So that's what I take away from this performance. Moving down the card in the fight that opened up the entire card, the first prelim, Sergey Morozov versus Journey Newsom. Not a particularly eventful fight. Don't really care that much. Don't take too much away from this fight. Sergey Morozov shoots some takedowns, basically wins it with the grappling. Striking, not super eventful. Nothing really to talk about. I don't even remember what I scored this fight, to be honest. I was kind of zoning out a little bit. You know how Dana was talking about the main event of 282, even though that fight was actually decent. Not the greatest fight. Sergey Morozov gets the unanimous decision win. Primarily wins it with his grappling. One thing I did want to mention is Sergey Morozov. I'm not super high on him. I picked him to win this fight. He beat Raulian Paiva in his last fight. You guys remember when people were hyping up Raulian Paiva like he was so great, you know, right before he fought Sean O'Malley. So when Sean O'Malley then did beat him, they could pretend like it was a great win. I remember that. And that's what every time I look at Sergey Morozov and I try to assess his skill set, I'm like, oh, I remember that now, because I'm not that high on Morozov. I think he's an okay fighter, but I'm not that high on him. Has some decent grappling, has okay striking. Gets this win here, but where's he really going to go, especially in the Bantamweight division? I think he's just going to hang around, get some fights in, fill in some prelims, and never really do much within the division. But maybe I'll be wrong. Okay, guys, before I end this video, do me a favor. If you enjoy this full card recap, like the video. I don't do, for every fight card, I don't do a full card recap. But if it's something you would like to see me do more in the future, let me know down in the comments. And also, this is the last card of the year. And if you stayed all the way to the end of this video, which looks like it's going to be about 35 minutes long, comment down below and let me know something you would like to see me start doing on the channel in 2023. I'm genuinely curious who's watching this all the way to the end. So don't forget to like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.